Ushered in, then we will start presentation. Doctor, you're welcome. In the panel, we have the Secretary, Transportation Secretary, Federal Capital Territory Administration, Mr. Kayode Opefa. Another panelist is also in the house, Managing Director, Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, Engineer Chidi KC Izua Senior, will also be discussing this paper. Engineer, you're welcome, sir. We have a commissioner from the Economic Community of West African States. Commissioner in charge of infrastructure will also be discussing this paper. Commissioner for Infrastructure, ECOWAS. Up to the stage, the moderator of this session. Let me welcome Mr. Alhaji E.M. Sharif, an Institute of ITP. He wants to make a comment before we get into the plenary. Alhaji E.M. Sharif.
Our distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, mine is just to remind those who were here last year and to inform those who are coming for the first time on the status of implementation of the 2017-15 National Council meeting on transportation, which took place in Sokoto, and for us to know the essence of this summit and how it all began. I don't intend to take your time, but to just tell you or remind you about why we are gathered here and what is expected of our delegates. First and foremost, the resolution of the Council that is coded 5.29 reads thus: that Council approved the collaboration among the Institute for Tourism Professionals, ITP, Federal Ministry of Transportation, and other relevant agencies in the transportation sector to promote tourism. This was the resolution of the National Council on Transportation that took place in 2017 in Sokoto, which is what has led to what we are doing here today. As soon as the communique was published by the ministry, the Institute went into action. A joint committee for the National Tourism Transport Summit and Expo was inaugurated from amongst Federal Ministry of Transportation and its agencies, the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture that oversees tourism, and its agencies. Others are the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, hoteliers, and of course, the Institute for Tourism Professionals served as the secretariat. The Joint Sectoral Planning Committee hosted the first National Tourism Transport Summit on the 21st and 22nd of May, 2018, right here at the same venue. Of course, the theme was tourism and transportation, the key sectors for economic diversification, sustainable growth, and development. The two-day summit had participants from, of course, the frontline ministries, transportation, information and tourism, and a number, and of course, there are parastatals and departments, including some private sector organizations that included the airline operators, the academia, road transport owners, foreign embassies, professional bodies, and the rest of them. In line with the first summit, of course, the recommendation, the second edition of the summit is holding today, 29th, and tomorrow, 30th of April, 2019, and at the same venue. In conclusion, we wish to promise that this summit will continue to look at areas of gap and close same for the betterment and development of Nigeria tourism and transportation sectors in the spirit of taking our economy out of the gas and oil dependence. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, once again, you are welcome to the program as we commence the technical session. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, dear panelists, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to this afternoon session, the first on its kind, the first technical session this afternoon. So without wasting time, I would like to once again recognize our lead panelist, who is no other person, but Dr. Antonia Ekpa. Please, can we appreciate her once again with a round of applause? Please, with a round of applause, can we welcome Dr. Antonia, who will take us on the first paper.
Good morning, good afternoon. Let me greet those who came a little bit late morning and those who are here this afternoon, and God bless all of us. It's effective multimodal transportation and infrastructure panacea for tourism development in Nigeria. Earlier in the day, we had some comments from our chairperson, that is the Honorable Minister of Women Affairs, and we heard from a former DG of Tourism, and we also heard from the Minister of Transportation, very briefly, and the Minister of State for Aviation. Apparently, the stage has been set for the discussion we have here. I have only 30 minutes, and I'll do my bit to run through this paper. As a matter of fact, the issues that are going to be discussed here, we are all familiar with. And we only just want to ask ourselves one question, and that is there really a connect between tourism and transportation? I had an argument with a very highly placed someone in transportation and or in the transportation sector, and the person didn't believe that there is a link. And so I asked myself, there is need for someone to articulate the imperatives of having transportation in tourism, or redefining the role of transportation for effective tourism. But the focus, as the paper says, or the title says, is effectiveness of intermodalism for development, and what role that transportation plays. Because it is such a short time we have, I'll run through it. Basically, tourism and transportation have interdependencies for mutual growth and sustainable development. That is the theme of this conference. And it is necessary, I have said, to establish certain indubitable assumptions. And while thinking through this paper and trying to articulate my sense around the subject matter, I came out with what I think, for me, is a formula. And that tourism, T, and transportation, T, are not just interrelated, but intertwined. You see, you can have a relationship that is separated, but this one is that you can't just take one out of the other. And then the interdependency of T and T have cause and effect, input, output, and outcomes. And then you want to ask yourself, how come that some countries have very elaborate and vibrant, sustainable economy, based only on tourism. I want to take a country like Mauritius, which I am fortunate to have visited, that Mauritius has only sugarcane as its main export product. But every year, you have tons of people, permit me to use the word, going to Mauritius for holiday. And the issue is that it's not just that people travel to Mauritius, but that within Mauritius itself, there are enablers, there are things that make you want to stay back. You don't want to go. So the question then I ask myself is, what are these things? And looking at it, I saw transportation as an overarching instrument that the Mauritians have used to sell their country. And I have a couple here, beautiful friends from Morocco. And if there is any country that has benefited absolutely, intensely from tourism, it is Morocco. Every state in Morocco, and I give them a clap, every state, every region of Morocco is a tourism hub. And going on official visit, permit me to say, to Morocco, I had to say to myself, I just have to come back here. And I bought a ticket. And I was just telling them that I'm going to Morocco again to see this beautiful country. And transportation is a means by which I can get there. And moving around Morocco from one town to the other, from one city, from one product, from one exhibition point to the other, is through transportation. So therefore, can you give me the previous slide? When properly synergized, galvanized, and coordinated, T&T bring about economic growth, e.g., and sustainable development, SD. And when effective transportation and tourism are ignored, underdevelopment and poverty arrive. And I think for me, that is the challenge we have as a country. And so for us in transportation, and those of us who are interested in the nexus between the two, it is important for us. And I wish we had the power to change the situation. Next slide, please. So simply then, all that I have said gives me this formula. T&T equals to EGSD, OT minus T equals to underdevelopment and poverty. OT being zero transportation plus tourism, you now have underdevelopment and poverty. Can we have the next slide, please? Next slide. So we all already know what tourism is. I don't have time, so we can't go into the discussion about what tourism really is. But it's, as we all know it, is leaving your home, leaving your space, leaving your environment to somewhere. And the somewhere doesn't